This is Brandon with Fleet Feet, and today I've got a stability shoe for you from On, the On Cloudflyer 5. This is a stability shoe from On, a daily trainer, but it is a higher stacked, more cushioned version than that of the Cloud Runner 2. This shoe is mainly designed for everyday running and for those who need a little bit of extra stability or support in their running. This is actually the women's model here, and this is the men's model. On says that this is a high cushioned running shoe, but I'm not entirely sure that I agree. And quick update, there is no more speedboard in this shoe. On has been moving away from the speedboard technology and have been taking that out. The speedboard just made the shoes a little bit too firm and made them too rigid and weren't as flexible, and people weren't seeing the benefit of the speedboard. So On has decided that they're taking out the speedboard from most of their shoes or reinventing them in different ways. But you won't just be hearing from me about this. Caroline actually had a lot of thoughts about this shoe. So let's dive in. As always, please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps to support us with all of our videos. Now, let's just start with the engineered mesh upper. You can tell just from when I first put this shoe on, it was made specifically for comfort. The tongue is very plush, as well as the heel collar. There is a gusset, so it allows for that nice midfoot lockdown and wrap. And overall, I just felt like it fit really well and true to size. This classic gray, clean look is really nice, and I do usually like the aesthetic of On shoes, and this black one here too is really nice. On usually picks more neutral tones, not as many brighter options, but for a shoe like this, you can wear it out for lifestyle, you can go out to the gym in it, you can walk down the street in it, or you can go for your casual runs in it. It's just going to have that nice look and feel that's going to work for a lot of different options and occasions. And another thing that I should note is that On actually has this plastic heel clip here that goes through the heel of the shoe and just stabilizes the heel in place. Make sure that there's no issues with stability or heel slip. And another thing that I noticed about this shoe, but I thought was just a little funny from a design aesthetic, was how big the vamp of this shoe is. It's got this really big boxy vamp. It didn't really change anything for me, but aesthetically it's just an interesting choice. Usually a lot of vamps are quite narrow, and if those who don't really know what the vamp is, it's just the throat, it's just the top of the throat of the foot here. And what you can see is it's quite boxy, it's very big, but it actually fits really nicely. When Caroline slipped her foot into the shoe and put it on for the very first time, it felt like she was riding first class on a plane. It was just like this magical, very top tier experience that she enjoyed. And for her, most of all, this shoe fits true to size. She didn't have any hot spots or blisters in it, and it fit really well for her. While this shoe did fit really well for both Caroline and I, we don't know whether this shoe is gonna fit best for you. Everyone's foot shape is a little bit differently, but you can find out if you go to your local Fleet Feet store, go get your foot scanned, go through the fit ID process and the outfitting experience. You can get some data about your feet and figure out whether this shoe is going to fit best for you. Moving on to the midsole of this shoe, it is made up of Cloudtec with Helion. So the Cloudtec is going to be that cloud-like and pod geometry that you've seen in a lot of other On shoes. On has created two different types of geometry for their midsoles for the most part. You've got the Cloudtec Phase, which is the newer model that you're seeing in the On Cloud Surfer Next, and then you've got the Cloudtec, which is more traditional that you see in a lot of other On shoes. Even though they've removed the speedboard from the shoe, it is a much firmer shoe than other On shoes that I've been testing lately. The firmness feels similar to that of the Cloud Surfer Next and the Cloud Runner 2. So if you are a fan of either of those shoes, this shoe is going to feel pretty similar. The stack of this shoe comes in at 31 in the heel and 21 in the toe, making it a 10mm drop. Now let's move on to the outsole. The outsole of this shoe is much wider than other On shoes, and that is because On decided to make this shoe with a much wider base, which is going to create even more stability when running through this shoe. There is an updated rubber outsole to this, so it is going to be grippier and more tacky, and at the end of the day, I really didn't have any issues with traction or any of the rubber outsole. I tested this shoe out on some more wet conditions and actually found that it held up really well. Usually that's not something that's always true of On shoes, especially with this geometry. You don't get this this like full length coverage of rubber on the bottom. So for me, this was a big surprise that the outsole held up really well, and that's probably due to the new rubber. Now let's move on to the ride and performance. And the first thing that I noticed was that this shoe has a much wider base and it was very stable. This shoe doesn't have a ton of bounce to it, but it is great for walking, and it's gonna be a great shoe for those who are gym goers or walkers or casual runners alike. It's a shoe that I'd put on to get a few miles in. Maybe I'd go get 3 or 4 miles on my easy days in, or if I'm doubling that day and I just want another shoe that's a little bit more casual, I wanna get a few miles in while going to the gym, this is going to be a great option. If you're someone who really liked the Cloudrunner 2, but you just want a little bit of a higher stack, then I would definitely recommend this option. And for Caroline, even though she usually likes a more cushioned shoe, she found that the moderate cushioning and stack in the shoe definitely worked well for her. And since she found that the shoe was so firm, that any more stack or any more cushioning in the shoe would just make it feel a little bit more cumbersome, a little bit more convoluted, and just unnecessary. The weight of this shoe comes in at 300 grams or 10.5 ounces for the men's model, and 8.8 ounces or 250 grams for the women's model. So this shoe is over 10 ounces, which makes it a little bit more on the heavy side. But like we said, with the heel clip and the more dense foam, a little bit of a higher stack, this shoe is going to be one of those shoes that you're gonna wanna keep putting on, is gonna be very comfortable. And when you're using it for some of your easier miles or just casual miles, or when you're walking, you're not really gonna notice the weight. And this shoe comes in at $170. And other shoes that are similar to it are the Hoka Arahi at $145 and the Saucony Guide at $140. And if you want to try this shoe on for yourself or test it out, you can go check it out at your local Fleet Feet store or online at fleetfeet.com. But for now, you should go check out our 2 reviews from On that are very similar to this one, the On Cloud Surfer Next and the On Cloudrunner 2.